G'day YouTubers! I will preview this week's round of the 2024 AFL season. Before I start, it will be appreciated if you can subscribe, like and comment to my channel. Every subscriber will be much appreciated. I will review my tips that I got for last round. For the first game, Carlton against Melbourne. I tipped Melbourne. Damn it, Carlton had won this game. They scored 5 goals to 0 at quarter time, 30-0, and the game was basically over. Second game, I tipped the Cats to beat the Power. The Power won at Geelong. Damn it, that's Northam too. My third game, also on Friday night, I tipped the Swans to beat Freo. Woohoo! Got that correct. The fourth game in Tasmania, I tipped the Saints. Damn it, Hawthorn won. Fifth game, I tipped the Bombers to beat the GWS Giants. Woohoo! I got that right. The next game, I tipped the Bulldogs to beat Richmond. The Bulldogs smashed Richmond by 80 odd points. Woohoo, that was easy. And the following game, I tipped the Suns to beat the Kangaroos. North Melbourne hasn't won a game, so that was a no-brainer. I'm tipping Gold Coast Suns. Woohoo! I tipped Collingwood to beat West Coast on Sunday. Woohoo! Got that right. And unfortunately for the last game of the week, I tipped the Crows to beat the Lions. The game ended in a draw, unfortunately. Therefore, for round 9, I tipped 5 games correct. And my total for this season is 55 votes. The first game of the week is between Gold Coast and Geelong. This is played on a Thursday night in Northern Territory. The players in the mix for the Suns are Ellis, Barr, Atkins and Alderick. The players injured for the Suns are Roses Jr. and Miller. For the Cats, the players in the mix are Manam, Hardy and Braun. The players injured for the Cats are Dangerfield, Edwards and Wiltshire. Last week, Gold Coast beat North Melbourne. They need to do what they need to do. And North Melbourne has not won a game this season. And the Cats lost to the Power on a Friday night by a goal. Looking at the ruck midfield setup for both sides, for the Suns, you have Mitts in ruck with Anderson, Rao, Miller and Flanders. For the Cats, you have Blickhurst in ruck with Holmes, Henry, Duncan and Clark. When you compare the two sides, you have Blickhurst against Mitts. Mitts is one of the best ruckmen in the league. And in midfield, you got the young superstar in Holmes, Henry. So you got Holmes against Anderson, Henry against Rao, and Duncan, who's got experience against Tuke Miller, all Australian. So that's pretty good matchups. You expect the Suns to win the midfield, and Flanders, who plays in the midfield and halfback, against Clark. So I like this position for the Gold Coast Suns. And Cameron is likely to be injured as well. So I forgot to mention that. He'll be out because in the last game against Port, there was some controversy whether Cameron was concussed or not. I believe this week he won't be in the game. Based on this, I'm going to tip Gold Coast Suns. The Cats have got some injuries with Dangerfield and Jeremy Cameron, so who will score the goals for the Cats? Tom Hawke has been struggling. He's only scored 1 goal in the last 5 games. I'm going to tip the Suns for this game. The next game is between Sydney and Carlton. Last week, the Swans won over Western Australia against Fremantle, and Carlton beat Melbourne. That was a good game. Carlton flew to a 5 goal to 0 quarter time start, and Melbourne almost won the game and lost by a point, but Carlton's first quarter was too strong for the Demons. The players in the mix for the Swans are Parker, Hamling and Campbell, whereas for the Blues, their players in the mix are Fantasia, Cunningham and Marchbank. The players injured for the Swans are Mills, Corey Warner and Reid, whereas the Blues will be missing Fogarty, Martin, Motlop, Sard and Doherty and Sawani to both ACL knee injuries. If you compare the ruck midfield setup for both sides, in ruck for the Swans you have Grundy with the midfields of Jordan, Rowbottom, Chadward and Golden, against Carlton's ruck midfield setup of Pitnott with Cripps, Candy, Sarah and Walsh in midfield. If you look at the setup of the two sides, you've got Grundy against Pitnott. Grundy is a former All-Australian who's relishing being the sole ruckman. I like
at Melbourne last season. And then in the midfield, you've got the power of Cripps for Cowden against Jordan, and also inside midfield Kennedy against Rowbottom. Then you have the outside of Sarah and Walsh against Chad, Warren and Gordon. Chad, Warren and Gordon just elite kickers, especially Gordon. You just don't want him to have the ball. Every time he has the ball in outside 50 from the centre, he's got to hit a target to the marking forward to McDonald, which is elite kicking. Based on that, the Swans midfield look class. They've just got class elite kickers. They've got good midfields. They just don't have an outsider like a Golden or a Petraka type who can explode in the centre of the midfield. Based on the two lines, and also given that the game is played at SCG and the Swans have only lost one game this season with an upset against Richmond, how would you imagine that? In theory, the Swans should have been undefeated so far this season. Who could imagine? Richmond right now are struggling and the Swans have lost to Richmond. I'm going to tip the Swans for this game. The next game is between Collingwood and Adelaide on Saturday at the MCG. Last week, Collingwood beat West Coast and the Crows drew to the injury depleted Brisbane Lions side. The players in the mix for Collingwood are Ryan, Damata, Krieger, whereas for the Crows, their players in the mix are Murphy, Berry, Gallant and Bullace. The players injured for Collingwood are Eyre, McCready, Elliott, DeGoey, McCready, Mychek, Mitchell, Bartel to concussion and McStay. The players injured for the Crows are Phil Ford, Worrell, Pedler, Parnell and Miller all out for this season, and Murray still injured since last year's ACL knee injury. If you compare the ruck midfield test both sides, in ruck midfield for Collingwood you have Cameron in ruck with Nick Dacos, Lipinski, Cripps and Pennebury as the midfielders. For the Crows you have O'Brien in ruck with Dawson, Crouch, Laird and Saligo as the midfielders. So we compare the two sides, Cameron against O'Brien. O'Brien is likely to win hit-outs. The Crows are not ranked in the top half for hit-outs advantage. So in theory, this could be 50-50 for hit-outs one to advantage. And then in the midfield, you've got Dawson against Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos is elite. Dawson is as well. Lipinski as an inside mid against Crouch. Crouch finds playing ball. Cripps also inside midfield against Laird. Also Laird finds playing ball. However, Laird is more of a handball to kick ratio midfielder. And you got Class Penalty against Saligo. Saligo is an upcoming young player and is Sloane's replacement. On paper, Collingwood's midfielders look more elite. On paper, the Crows have a better forward line. However, the Crows have not been functioning well this year and they play a lot better when they're trailing. In the draw against Brisbane Lions last week, before the end of the third quarter, they conceded 2 consecutive goals, and at the start of the fourth quarter, they conceded 3 consecutive goals. Therefore, the Crows gave 5 consecutive goals to have a deficit of 18 points before they made the comeback. The Crows play a lot better when they're not favourite and when teams are not expecting to win. For this one, it's going to be a close one because Collingwood's got so many injuries, but the game is played at the MCG, and with the Crows, you just can't trust them. They've lost 5 games, won 3, drawn 1. Which Crows will rock up? Is it the one that they beat Cowden, or the showdown against Port when no one expected them to win? Or would it just be that Crows team that lost at home to, i.e. your Melbourne or Essendon? I can't trust them with my tips. Therefore, because the game is played in Melbourne, I'm going to tip Collingwood, even though they have a massive injury lineup. The next game is between GWS and the Western Bulldogs. Last week, the Giants lost to Essendon away at Marvel, and the Bulldogs easily disposed of Richmond by 80 plus points. The players in the mix for the Giants are O'Halloran, Ralston and McMullen, whereas for the Bulldogs, their players in the mix are Sanders, Daniel, Baker and Lobb. The players injured for the Giants are Cummings, Bruce, Kennedy, Leake and Brown to suspension. For the Bulldogs, their players injured are Waitman, Caulfield, Libba and Bailey Smith to an ACL knee injury. If you look at the ruck midfield setup for both sides, you have Brooks in ruck with Coniglio, Kelly, Whitfield and Callum. This is for the Giants. You look at the Bulldogs ruck midfield setup, you got English in ruck with Bontempelli, Treloar, Harms and Baden Williams in the midfield. If you compare the two, Briggs against English, All Australian English, you believe the English will dominate that. In the midfield, the Giants got some quality. Nicolio against Bontempelli, 2 guns. Bontempelli's top 5, you expect Bont to win that position. Kelly against Treloar, both good outside players, say that's even. Harms against Whitfield. Whitfield is more of an outside player. And Williams against Callaghan. Callaghan's a good young gun player who will be top 30 in the league in the coming future, but he's only playing his 3rd year in AFL. Against Williams, who's a great elite kicker. They're just quality matchup between the ruck midfield setup for both sides. Hard to pick based on the midfield. However, given the game is played at GWS's home, I'm going to tip the Giants to win this game. Therefore, I'll click on the Giants. The next game of the week is between St Kilda and Fremantle. Last week, St Kilda lost to Hawthorn and the Dockers lost to the Swans on a Friday night. The players in the mix for St Kilda are Dow, Jones, Philippou and Sharman. Whereas for the Dockers, the players in the mix are Taberner, Simpson and Will Brodie. The players injured for the Saints are Butler, Crouch and Houghton. For the Dockers, they will be missing Cox, McDonald and Corbett. Looking at the ruck midfield setup for both sides, for St Kilda, they've got Marshall and ruck with Ross, Hill, Steele and Ringhanger as the midfielders. For the Dockers, you've got Jackson and ruck, followed by Young, Sarong, Brayshaw and Fife in the midfield. If you compare the matchup, Marshall against Jackson, what a ruck matchup. And then in the midfields, you have Ross against Young, Hayden Young with his elite kicking. The speed of Hill against his old side, Freo against Fife. Fife, still not his Brownlow performance, but still playing well. Fife can play inside and also can go up forward and take overhead marks. Then you have Steele, the captain, against Sarong, 2 elite midfielders, with Winghanger against Brayshaw. Brayshaw can run all day. St Kilda are struggling right now. They've lost a few matches in a row. Given that St Kilda have been struggling lately, this one was very hard to tip. On paper, I would tip Fremantle. However, given that St Kilda's been on a 3-game losing streak and they've been having negative press this week, I just have a gut feeling that St Kilda will win. So I'm going to tip the Saints to win this game, just based on gut feel. It's going to be a close game. The next game of the week is between Brisbane Lions and Richmond. Last week, the Lions drew to the Crows. Richmond got absolutely smashed by the Western Bulldogs last week. The players in the mix for Brisbane are Lyons, Pryor and Four. The players in the mix for the Tigers are McIntosh, Ryan and Kodzicki. The players injured for the Lions, which is a long list, are Zach Bailey, Robinson, Answer, Starswich, and 5 players see ACL knee injuries in Gardner, McCarthy, Common, Dode and Ashcroft. The players injured for the Tigers are Taranto, Hopper, Lynch, Graham, Ross and Gipkus. That's like 2/3 of their midfield. Looking at the ruck midfield setup both sides, for the Lions you have McInerney in ruck with the midfields of McCluggage, Neil, Dunkley and Berry. This is the only position, apart from Bailey, that the Lions don't have much injury in. For the Tigers, their ruck midfield setup is Lankovis in ruck with Pickett, Banks, Baker and Walesmith as the midfielders. If you compare the two lineup or setup, for ruck you have McInerney against Lankovis. That's going to be an even contest. Followed by the midfielders, McCluggage, who can go outside, against Pickett, who's also speedy outside. And then this is where the difference sets. Neil against Banks. Neil is a 2-time Brownlow medalist against Banks, who's just finding his feet in AFL. Dunkley, premiership player with the Bulldogs, against Baker, a class difference between those two players. And Berry against Ralph Smith. Richmond have so many injuries in the midfield. As I said earlier, they're missing 2/3 of the midfield in Taranto, Hopper and Graham. Based on this, the Lions midfield should absolutely have a field day and win most of the contested positions and centre clearances. Given that Richmond are struggling and they've got so many injuries and the game is played at the Gabba, I expect the Lions to win easily by at least 30 goals plus. I will tip the Lions for this game. The next game is between Essendon and North Melbourne. Last week, Essendon beat GWS at home. Last week, North Melbourne lost to the Gold Coast Suns. The players in the mix are, for the Bombers, Wangening and Shield. For the Kangaroos, Bergman, Dersma, Ford and Stevens are in the mix. The players injured for the Bombers are Dersma, Caldwell, Ridley and Sedgefield. Therefore, Essen Dersma can't play against his brother, given that he's injured. And the players injured for the Kangaroos are Lowe, Goda and Common Jones. If you look at the ruck midfield setup between both sides, for the Bombers you got Draper, Parrish, Perkins, Merritt and Stringer. For the Roos you got Exari, Davy Giacchi, Machercha, Simpkin and Woodlaw. If you compare the two, in ruck you got Draper and Exari. You expect Draper to win more hit-outs. And then in the midfield you got Parrish against Davy Giacchi. Davy Giacchi is a gun young player. You expect Davy Giacchi to do well against Parrish. But it's the others. Perkins against young Machercha in his first year. Merritt against Simpkin. Merritt accumulates all the ball, is a great player. And the powerful Stringer against first year, or I should say second year player in Wardlaw. If you compare the two ruck midfield setup, you give the points to the Dons. They've got too much class and experience against the young North Melbourne midfielder. If you look at players like Machercha and Wardlaw, who have only been in the system within 2 years. And given that North has not won a game, I expect this streak to continue. Therefore, I'm going to tip the Bombs to win easily by 30 plus points. The next game of the week is between Port Adelaide and Hawthorn. Last week, Port Adelaide beat Geelong in Geelong on a Friday night, and Hawthorn beat St Kilda in Tasmania. The players in the mix for both sides are, for Port, Lord, Captain Rosie, Cluey and Sweet. For the Hawks, their players in the mix are Ward, Wingard, CJ and Brown. The players injured for the Power are Soldo, Jones, Narkle and Powell Pepper. For the Hawks, they will be missing Granger Barash, Lewis, McCabe and Blanc. If you compare the ruck midfield setup, I'm assuming that Jordan Sweet will return back from injury. You have Sweet in ruck with Butters, Hornfasters, Wise and Drew, and this is excluding Rosie. Whereas for the Hawks, you got Meek in ruck, Yukon, Weddle, Warpel and Mackenzie. If we compare the two, you have Sweet against Meek. Given that Meek's been in good form, you give the points to Meek. Then this is where it is. The midfielders. Butters against Newcombe. Butters is inside outside with speed and power. You expect Butters to have the points over that. Hornfasters, the former #1 draft pick, against Weddle. You favour Hornfasters. And a powerful Wines, who's won a Brawler against Warpel. And Drew against Mackenzie. The Power just has too much class in the midfield. Given that the game is playing Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, I'm going to tip the Power to win this game. The next game is between West Coast and Melbourne. Last week, West Coast lost to Collingwood on a Sunday, and Melbourne lost to Cowden. The players in the mix for both sides are, for the Eagles are Gaff, Cully and H. Edwards. For the Demons, their players in the mix are Hunter, Brown and Thomason. The players injured for the Eagles are Allen, Waterman, Yo, Flynn and Jewett. Demons will be missing Melsham, Salem and Spargo. If we compare the ruck midfield sub between both sides, for the Eagles you got Bailey Williams in ruck with Gimby, Kelly, Jay Williams and Chester in midfield. For the Demons you have Gordon ruck, followed by Oliver, Winey, Petraka and Sparrow. This is where the game will be won. If you compare Maxi, or Max Gorn, against Williams, Max is an all-Australian midfielder. He should win the hit-outs against young Williams. And then the midfielders, the class of Oliver against West Coast Gimby, I should say, who's only a young second-year player, still finding his craft. Tim Kelly against the powerful Petraka, who can play forward and mid. Hardnut Winey against West Coast Jay Williams, and Chester for the Eagles against Barrow of the Demons. The midfield of Melbourne is just too much class. You got all Australian players in Gorn, Oliver and Petraka, just the class difference. They're going to provide so many inside 50s to the Melbourne's forwards, and this could potentially be a field day for your Petties and your Pickett's and Bailey Fritz. They're going to have so many scoring opportunities. Based on this, I'm going to tip the Demons to win, and I expect them to win by 5 goals plus. Given that West Coast are missing a number of key forwards in Oscar Allen and Waterman, I just don't know how many goals West Coast are going to score. Last week against Collingwood, I believe they scored less than 8 goals, so I'm unsure who are going to score the goals for West Coast. That's my tips for the week. I'm tipping the Suns to beat the Cats, given that the game is playing in Darwin. The Cats will be missing Cameron and Dangerfield. I tipped the Swans to beat Cowan at home. Collingwood should beat the Crows. I'm tipping the Giants to beat the Doggies. This one was hard to tip. I'm going to go for St Kilda to beat Freo. The Saints are under pressure this week. I'm expecting reaction this week. The Lions to smash Richmond with all the injuries that Richmond have. North Melbourne are struggling at the moment, can't buy a win, so I'm tipping the Bombers to beat them pretty easily. The Power should get the points over Hawthorn at home. And Melbourne to win at West Coast. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe, comment and like. Every subscriber will be much appreciated.